School. I am Desiree
Hey,
Cocroft with Destination Life.
and I am Erica Lynette with Divinement, and today we are discussing the fear of rejection and
Yes.
misunderstanding. Oh my goodness, as women of color, and how this can impact our ability to fully express ourselves. So let's jump right into it, Desiree.
Yeah, we're going to jump right in. And just so you know, I'm like holding my mic. So if it looks like I'm
We
eating
make
something,
things
I'm not.
happen.
Yeah, we make things happen. And I have a nice, very active background today. But anyway,
Yeah,
we're gonna jump right into understanding our fear, what the fear of rejection is, and
hmm,
what it means to be misunderstood, and really, the fear of not being accepted, the
yeah,
fear of being misunderstood. It can really be paralyzing to us in our professional life and our personal life. And when we understand that that's what's actually happening when
hmm,
we're paralyzed, right? When we're not making that step, when we're not taking action, when we're afraid to have a conversation, when we get really aware and can realize it's coming from a place of not feeling accepted or feeling misunderstood, that's when we really can, tap into some of the stuff we'll talk about later, like strategies of overcoming it. But if we don't recognize it in the
yeah,
beginning, it's going to be hard for us to do it. And I know you can, Erica, but I can definitely think of
hmm,
times where it was this feeling of not being accepted because of people's behaviors toward me or because of the way people said things toward me in the workplace, or in my personal life.
yeah,
And it made me not want to engage, maybe not want to have conversations, maybe second guess
hmm,
myself. And so I think it's really important for us to get aware of and not like wish it away, but get
yeah,
aware
right.
of that's actually what's happening. Like, I'm not being accepted in this space. I'm not, or whether it's me not accepting myself in this space, or it's other people not
Uh-huh.
accepting myself in this space, or oh, it's this is happening because they misunderstood me. Like, I can go
Hmm.
back and get clarity on that. What are your thoughts, Erica?
No, I completely agree. Because, a lot of times when we feel that we've been rejected or misunderstood, it really, prevents us from sharing our ideas. We're not as open to doing so. We just kind of shrink back, or shut down. Sometimes we just completely shut down. And so, it prevents us from doing that and, from speaking up and even more so taking risk. Because like in some of our previous episodes, we talked about the having the audacity to take risks to go to the next level, so we don't plateau. When we feel that we've been rejected or misunderstood, we shy away from taking those risks, and then again, we know that that will just make our career advancement stagnant. So
Yeah.
it's definitely something that can be very serious, and have a serious impact on our future progress overall.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why it's important for us to really take some time and reflect. So we want you, as we're
Hmm.
talking about this today, take some time to reflect, right? When the fear of rejection or the fear of being accepted, or not
Yeah.
being accepted, the fear of being misunderstood, when have you felt those things, right? What was actually happening? Was it something that was self-imposed? Was it because of the way that you were engaging with others? But what was happening that held you back from really fully expressing yourself? And then we
Hmm.
want you to identify, like, maybe what's one step you can take to overcome this fear in a
Hmm.
similar situation. I think the biggest thing is, again, like getting aware of when it's happened in the past. Is it happening currently? Like in our
Right. Yeah.
future life. Again, those opportunities to reflect. And we'll give you a lot of things that you can think about in terms of action, as we typically do.
Yes.
But definitely want you to think as we're having this conversation, just reflect on when that has happened and feel free to throw it in the chat too. We would love to hear,
Hmm.
times where you may have felt that way.
Yeah, yeah. And so, as we unpack this some more and look at now the impact of rejection and misunderstanding on our personal and professional growth, we already know that this is something that can greatly hinder us, just like we kind of alluded to. It's very stifling. And if we're not careful, then we just we get into this race where it's almost like we're on a hamster wheel, just going in the same direction, but not really going anywhere. So we really want to be mindful of the impact that it has on us. Again, do we shut down when we feel that way? Are we having conversations, some crucial conversations, or are we just, sweeping it under the rug and just trying to ignore it, even though we know that we're not ignoring it because we're experiencing it? So we just need to be sure that we're acknowledging what those impacts are on us when we have those feelings. We want to definitely be mindful of that and aware.
Yeah, no, that's big. That's big. Like recognizing like what the paralysis looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can say
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, it can paralyze you, but
Yeah,
being paralyzed can look really different. It can
that's
mean not
right.
saying yes to different opportunities. It can mean
Mm-hmm.
like not procrastinating on your work because you feel misunderstood every time you say something about a project that
Yeah,
you're working on, or people come and give you all this feedback and it feels like they don't give anybody else feedback. Like it can truly prevent us from seizing
right.
opportunities, pursuing passions, or really
Mm-hmm.
reaching our full potential. And I definitely can think of times where I didn't seize the opportunity because I was
Mm-hmm.
worried about someone thinking that it was just my shameless plug. You know, I don't know if that happens. You
Yeah.
know, like, oh, we don't want to like make people think that we think too much of ourselves by
Yeah.
like presenting an opportunity for us to
Mm-hmm.
have a growth spurt or what have you. I mean, even recently, someone was talking about like different books. This is
Mm-hmm.
actually on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. Someone was talking about different books that they would suggest people to read, and I
Yeah.
love the list that they created. Right, and this is small, but I think it's big. And I was looking at the list, and they had different
Mm-hmm.
areas, and I didn't see any books about mindset. And I was like, oh, I think
Mm.
books would be awesome. I mean, they have really good books on there that could contribute to mindset, but I was thinking
Right.
specifically about mindset books. And so I added
Yeah.
to the list, and then I was just like, and I would suggest my own book, right? So I was like,
Good.
shameless plug, I'm
That's
suggesting
right.
my own book too. I think it would be a good read. And but there was a moment like while I was
Mm-hmm.
typing, and I was like, oh my goodness, should I say that? Are people gonna
I
misunderstand?
know.
Are they gonna think I think too much of myself, or here she goes
Right.
feeling herself? And I was just like, I mean, but if people know me, they know that um, I'm really committed to people's personal growth, whether you work
Mm-hmm.
with me or someone
Mm-hmm.
else. And why would I not share something that I believe is very impactful, even if it is something that
Right.
would benefit me, because I know it ultimately benefits the other person. Like, why would I not
Exactly.
share that? And so
Yeah.
I think that there are opportunities that we don't seize, and me sharing that. I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to buy my book or look me up or whatever have you, but I do know that I have something that's valuable that can be
Mm-hmm.
shared. And me sitting and worrying about being misunderstood, that's that behavior. It can be paralyzed, and it can be like delete, delete, delete,
Yeah.
delete, and then just being like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever. But it's like I didn't seize the opportunity to even
Mm-hmm.
pursue what I feel passionate about and helping others reach their fullest potential. And then I'm not kind of practicing what I'm preaching.
Right. Right. Having the audacity.
Yeah, exactly,
Having
exactly.
the audacity. And the thing about it is it's like, we just never know, that we may truly be one step away from the next amazing, just groundbreaking opportunity if we don't take
Yeah,
that step. And so if we truly let rejection and misunderstanding hinder us in that way, then that can really just derail the plans that God has for us, and that and what we want to do as far as fulfilling our dreams. So
yeah,
um I love that you went on and took that step, and that you were audacious and just put it out there, because you never know. Like you said, you're helping others, and so we just have to keep putting that into practice. We want to keep doing
yeah.
that.
And
So
people be worried about people not knowing who they are and
yeah.
questioning who they are. And it's just like, well, if people got that many questions, they can actually ask me. You know what I mean? Or get to
Exactly.
know me, because I think we make it's kind of like, who do they think she is, right? That
Mhm.
audacious kind of like
Mhm.
behavior. And it's not egotistical. It literally is just
Oh
like,
no.
oh, I think this would be really great. And
Yeah. Yeah.
some people are saying and projecting their own feelings and thoughts about what they will and will not do, which has
Yes.
nothing to do with you. It's their own self bias. It's their own
That's
fear of
right.
stepping out that they're projecting, or experiences that they've had
Mhm.
with people that haven't allowed them to feel. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they belong. So they, like it just gets projected onto us, and it's like we can't take on other people's stuff.
No, no, because that's like a crabs in the barrel situation. They don't want you to succeed because they're not where they want to be. So yeah, we don't want to take that on at all. That's not being audacious.
Right, 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 right.
So So yes, as we think about the impact of these two areas on our personal growth, and how it could be detrimental at the same time. The action that we have for you this week is just to identify one goal, or one opportunity that you've been hesitant to pursue. Something that you've thought about, just like Desiree gave in her example. She was typing and like, should I really submit this? What's something that you were hesitant to pursue, due to fear of rejection or misunderstanding? And then from there, just map out a basic plan. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but just map out a basic plan that will help you to take one small step toward that goal, because we're all about taking action and really just putting things putting things in progress, so that we can start moving the needle forward.
Yeah, no, that's really
Yeah,
good. All the baby steps, right? Taking the
yeah,
baby.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's
We
good.
don't want to be bystanders.
Nah,
We
nah,
can't afford to
nah.
be bystanders.
No, no. Just take a little bit every day. We can do it. So
That's
we're gonna
right.
move on to like strategies, right? And I know everybody's like, "Ooh, what's the strategy?" Because I feel like this already, right?
Uh-huh.
Strategies are like really overcoming that fear, and so overcoming the
Mm-hmm.
fear of rejection and misunderstanding. Again, it requires courage, which is audacity, which is what we talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then it requires what I said a few minutes ago is self awareness, like getting
Yeah.
aware that that is the thing. You know what I mean? And like
Mm-hmm.
feeling it in your
Mm-hmm.
body. I was actually just talking to a friend because I wanted to pitch something to someone, and I could feel my chest
Yeah.
like starting to do like this. And I was like, my chest feels tight. I don't know what's wrong with me
Right.
right now. And I was like, but leaning into like, I know that even me telling her what I wanted to do was causing this,
Mm-hmm.
like this reaction in my body. And when I
Yeah.
felt it in my chest, I was like, oh, let me breathe through this because I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
telling you what I want to do, but there's clearly hesitation, and
Mm-hmm.
my body is kind of showing me that I'm hesitating, right? And so you
Yeah.
may have some kind of signal, right? And usually we feel things in our body, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe we have a behavior that we know we tend to do when
Mm-hmm.
we are not saying yes to a thing, right? When we're not
Right.
saying yes to that inner knowing. And so I think the awareness is super important there. There's actually a
Mm-hmm.
book called Rejection Proof. I tell people about this book all the time. I should have added it on
Ah.
that LinkedIn post that I was talking to. Rejection Proof is a book I think everyone should read. But Rejection Proof is by Jia Zhang.
Mm-hmm.
Jia is the first name, and just Google
Mm-hmm.
that and you should be able to find Rejection Proof. But in the book, he experimented. I forgot how
Mm-hmm.
many days he did the experiment, but he basically experimented how many times he could get rejected, asking for things that he
Mm.
knew, air codes, that people would say no to. And he used
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
as really a case study on rejection and why people feel rejected, why people make decisions to tell you no about a thing. And one of the biggest
Mm.
things I took away from the book is that when people reject you, or when people say no, or when people have something that is totally against what you want to do, it has nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do with you most times. I don't
Yeah.
remember what percentage
Yeah.
of the time. It wasn't necessarily like this binary thought. Like it never has anything to do with you, but most times it
Mm-hmm.
has everything to do about what they need, what they're
Mm-hmm.
going through, what is required of them. And as a dancer and having a dance company, I thought about it from the entertainment industry. When you're in an
Mm-hmm.
audition for something, people are thinking about what they need in a dancer and
Yeah.
what goes with their show. And yeah, we all know that there are biases and things that come in those spaces as well. But at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, you don't have to question your self worth. You don't have to question your talent and skills and values based on someone's no. And I think that that was a big
Exactly.
thing for me. Like, because
Yeah.
someone said no, it has nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do with their list that they're doing a checkbox on, that they're trying to
Yeah.
figure out. And we can even think about it in like terms of relationships. Like, all because you say no to someone doesn't mean they're not a great person. Maybe they're just not great for you. It's not a great
That's
alignment
right.
for you, and you might have like other people in mind that you're like, oh, you'd be awesome for this person. But I think
Yeah.
that on this self awareness of it's
Mm-hmm.
not, like, well, being aware of it, so I'm able to pick it out. But then also that book was really helpful of me knowing that it's not all about me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not why
Mm-hmm.
things are being said no. And then this other part of like it requires courage to overcome it is the courage is going and asking again to the
That's
same person,
right. That's
going to
exactly right.
not kind of like throwing out, what people used to say. I don't think people say it anymore, but throwing out the baby with the bathwater. That's such an old
Right.
because that just
You think it
sounds
back this
so
right.
wrong. Yeah, that just sounds so
Yeah.
wrong to say. But it's like you don't throw the whole thing away. It's just like, hey, the idea
Mm-hmm.
might not be wrong, but maybe it's a different audience you need to talk to. Maybe it's a different company.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to say it differently. Maybe you need to ask more questions. But just the courage to keep going. Oh, look,
Uh-oh.
delayed. Sorry.
There you are. Yeah, I
Okay.
know. We're back. We're good.
I
We're
hit
good.
like okay, I had a delay and I had hit mute because I'm in public, so I'm
Yeah,
trying not to
yeah.
like have to say, but no, like just like that delay of not delay, but just yeah, like we just need to know that it's not always us, you know what I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
if we take on the courage to just continue to seek until we get a yes, we find that oh, this is what I had to tweak to get a yes,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I love that, and I may have shared. I can't remember if I shared this on one of our earlier episodes, but when you were speaking about that, that reminded me of when I went to go pitch Divinement, my platform, to an organization that I'm very involved with, and I was like, oh, I already know they're gonna love it, and they were actually the only ones that turned me away, and I was devastated, and I'm like, do I have a pride issue? Like, what is going on? But it really bothered me, and I just didn't really know how to sit in that rejection, and it really bothered me, and I started questioning, like, is something wrong? What did I do, that was off? And I had to realize that it kind of goes back to what you said. It may be that it may have nothing to do with me at all. It may just be that they have a different path that they're on, and they have some goals that they're shooting for this year that it just doesn't align right now. It may not align, at all, but at this point in time, it just doesn't align. But am I going to sit there and focus all of the energy on that one no, or am I going to focus on all of these yeses that I've already gotten and that I continue to get? And so I love what you said about that, because that can definitely affect our mindset and how we continue moving forward in our endeavors. And so we have to understand that we don't need that validation. We have to be confident and assured that of what we bring to the table. We know what we bring to the table. We know the value that we would provide these organizations. And so just because we get that no doesn't mean that everything stops right there. We keep going. So as we think about other strategies to just work around rejection and misunderstanding, one of the main things is challenging negative thoughts. I'm big on affirmations and really just speaking life into a situation, and not focus on the negative. The negative it's such a default to focus on what's negative. I mean, we have plenty of that around us, but sometimes we really do have to be intentional about being positive and say, as soon as we're hit with something, negative, turning it into something positive, and being thankful for, understanding what you're experiencing, being thankful that you didn't get taken out or whatever it is, but just really turning it into something positive and recognizing the positive of a situation. And then just, doing some activities to help build self-confidence. Think about all the wonderful skills that you do bring to the table. Think about the wonderful testimonials or feedback that you've gotten from employees or clients, customers, whomever, that have already somewhat validated the value that you bring to the table, even though you don't have to have that validation, but that supports what you're already doing. So that helps to, give us a boost sometimes when we need it. And then lastly, just embracing vulnerability. Sometimes we're hesitant to share when we've made mistakes, when we've taken missteps, that kind of thing. And it's really part of our growth. Just saying, what, I really felt rejected by this, but you know what, I'm going to keep going. I'm gonna try harder. I'm gonna, I may tweak this area and reposition this, or represent this a different way. But being vulnerable enough to acknowledge it, goes back to that self-awareness piece you were talking about earlier, Desiree. But being vulnerable enough to acknowledge what we're feeling, how it's impacting us, and yet how we're going to move forward. Not staying stuck in that place, but how we're going to move forward.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That was ooh, that was real good. All those things. So yeah, I mean, but really, everything that Erica said is like perfect for the call to action that we think is really important for this area, especially when we think about building self confidence and embracing vulnerability. We really want you to practice
Mm-hmm.
self compassion. Like, how can you be more
Yeah.
compassionate with yourself? Like, whenever you feel the fear of rejection or misunderstanding like creeping up, right? Really
Mm-hmm.
reminding ourselves that it's okay, right? It's okay to be imperfect, that you're worthy of acceptance and understanding. So practicing that self compassion, because self awareness. A friend of mine, she always says, self awareness is not self abuse. That's her line.
Oh,
Self awareness is
yeah,
not
that's
self abuse.
true. I
Like,
like that.
we don't get to
Mm-hmm.
beat up ourselves or shame ourselves just because we
Mm-hmm.
recognize something about ourselves. But
Right.
remember, the only way to overcome it is to recognize it. And so we actually accept that it's happened and recognize it, then we can actually start doing things about it, and we can start seeing
Yeah.
the personal power that we have to do something about it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, once we take those steps, we want to understand overall that in order to cultivate audacity and assertiveness, by cultivating audacity and assertiveness, those are the things that will help us overcome the fear of rejection and misunderstanding. That's why we, form the Audacity School, because, a lot of what we're experiencing, it can really derail, if we allow it to. It can really derail us, but it's about having that audacity, really getting down to the root of why we're doing what we're doing. What is your why? What are you passionate? What is your purpose? And so, really embracing that, and really holding true to those things, and really being able to speak to what you bring to the table, with confidence and with clarity, and again with vulnerability, so that you can show your authentic self. All of those things will help us overcome rejection and misunderstanding. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to piggyback off that, like when we stand firm in our beliefs and express our authentic self and advocate for our needs, we start having different results, right? We get
Yeah.
different results in our life. We get different reactions from people,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
we're standing in our truth. We're standing in our beliefs,
Yes.
and it's not about like yelling and all of that. I
Right.
mean, even though you
Mm-hmm.
might have to yell for something,
Every now and
real
then.
talk, you might have to yell. But at the end of the day, that it's just this. I don't know, this quiet resilience, this quiet assertiveness that's I think is so
Mm-hmm.
powerful. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were just talking about how there are things that sometimes as women we get known for that we almost
Uh-huh.
discredit as a strong principle or value to have
Mm.
because it's not a type or it's not associated with a masculine trait, which I think we celebrate a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is something to be said about traditional feminine qualities or ways that we are, like when people are like, oh, you're too emotional, or when,
Right.
cultivating relationships are typically, not that men don't have that, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're typically associated with women, they're typically associated with femininity and such. And I think sometimes we can discredit those as powerful pieces in
Mm-hmm.
leadership, and I think that we get to take some of that back or
Yes.
all of that back
Yes.
as that, fully accepting who we are and making that,
Mm-hmm.
like a powerful thing in, using that as a power and not what has been seen like a weakness, You
Right.
know what I mean? And the difference is, it's almost like, oh, a man can be emotional in a meeting because, he's cursing and he's standing saying things. But if we
Mm-hmm.
get emotional, like we're being too emotional and we need to do something about it,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's a bias there, right? And so being able to stand in like, all because my emotion looks different than yours, it doesn't get to get discredited
Mm-hmm.
as something that is weak because it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to add to that, Desiree, I mean, I know you referenced the male female dynamic, but it can be just women of color versus Caucasian women, even. I mean, we have experienced that same dynamic there too, where in that example that you just gave, we may be viewed as emotional, but they may be viewed as just really sharing how they feel. So it's, I mean, it's all about the perception of it. So that's something that of course we're still overcoming even now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and look, that's a whole nother topic because that's all bias too. Like I'm like, this is a
Yes,
whole nother topic.
absolutely.
But we
Yeah,
gotta, we gotta, we
yeah.
gotta, we gotta wrap up. We going
I
long
know
today.
we really do. We really do.
Tell,
So
tell,
yes,
tell
as
the
far
people
as
what
your
they gotta
action,
do.
I know we got
Yeah.
to tell them what they got to do. So, as you think about cultivating audacity and assertiveness, in these areas, just take one small step this week. Take one audacious step, and that could be speaking up in a meeting. That could be sharing an unpopular opinion. That could be initiating a difficult conversation. Just take one small step to be more audacious and be more assertive.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off what Erica said, like that is the challenge, right? That
Hmm.
it's a small step. So identifying one of the things that you've heard, something that resonated with you, and just making
Yep.
sure that you take the opportunity where you might have been hesitant before, right?
Hmm.
And where you might have had to feel rejection or misunderstanding, and have that plan for one small step and make that this week's goal, right? And
Yeah, yeah, and
feel
then we also have the piece about your reflection time. We want to make sure
yeah.
that you take time to reflect on your experience and how you felt. When with overcoming the fear of rejection and misunderstanding. How did it feel to actually take that step to move towards your goal? So just think about that and just jot that down as well.
Yeah, I love that. And that whole how did it feel? Because that can really motivate you.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? To keep
absolutely.
doing it. When you start feeling good
Hmm.
about, making the steps, it's gonna create that
Yeah,
momentum.
you're gonna keep going. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what we want. We really want you to overcome the fear of rejection and misunderstanding one day at a time. We'll never ultimately overcome it and never deal with it again, but we can get
Hmm.
better at recognizing it so that when it does come, it comes less, it lasts long, it less, not it lasts less long. What is that?
Uh-huh. It's a tongue
you know,
twister.
it's a shorter time of feeling that because we practice
Yeah.
courage, we practice self awareness, and we practice audacity.
Yes, absolutely. And so, as we mentioned before, by challenging your negative thoughts, we're building self confidence, we're embracing vulnerability by doing those things, doing all the things. That's how we can learn to express ourselves authentically and assertively. So, those are the ways that we're sharing with you about how to overcome rejection and misunderstanding. Take those actions this week. Choose one action, take some time to reflect, and let's hear how it's made a difference in your life. So we are going to wrap up because, like Desiree said, we got excited today. We
I
started
know
moving
we did. We've been
going a little
short these
longer.
last couple
I
weeks. Like we've
know.
been cutting it short because we got stuff to do, and now it's like, ooh, we gotta chill Thursday. So we just
I know, but we're so happy you joined us. Thank you so much for joining us once again. I'm Erica Lynette with Divinement, and we're always excited to have you join us and hear some tips and insights on how you can be more audacious in your career.
absolutely. And I'm Desiree Cocroft with A Destination Life. And again, this has been the Audacity School podcast. We love talking to you all and hearing from us. Let us know in
Hmm.
the chat if there's other topics that you want us to talk
Oh
about.
yeah.
And until then, we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.